Okay, so this video is just a part 2 to show how to finish the hem on the skirt. So there's two different ways. The first one that I'm going to simulate, because I'm going to actually do the rolled hem with the rolled hem foot on my actual skirt. The first one would be the serge, turn, and stitch. So I'm just going to use a scrap piece of my fabric, and I'd go in and serge it first. Let's see the straight edge. And this was one of your samples from Apparel 2. Okay, and then if you want to press that out, you can press the serging out. So I'm going to clip my serging tails here, and then with a number 3 stitch, I'm going to go in and just stitch this and turn it twice. So you may want to, because we're turning this twice, go in and press it. I'm just going to kind of do it by hand. I want to make sure wherever I start, I back tack and back tack at the finish. And I'm just trying to catch the upper edge of the fold here. Our hems we do on number 3 stitch, just to make sure there's no pleating. Okay, and then I'm going to back tack, but you would be going all the way around the bottom of the skirt. So that center back seam that we finished for the zipper was serged separately, so make sure when you cross that center back seam that the seam allowance is laying open and flat, and then it would just press that hem. Okay, so I'm going to use the rolled hem foot, so I'm just going to swap and put the rolled hem foot on. So again, I'm at number 3 stitch, and I like to use either a needle or a pin just to get my fabric in here so I can get started. Okay, and I'm using the 1/4 inch rolled hem foot. Again, I'm at number 3 stitch length, and I want to just be able to control it. The circle skirt is actually ideal, or if you're doing really large dirndl skirts, for this rolled hem foot, because you have so much hem. You would never want to go in and do a hand sewn hem, just because of the amount of time that would take. So my fabric's really thin, so it's a little hard to control, but this is what my hem looks like, okay, as it's stitching. Okay, again, I started right after my zipper seam, so when I cross my zipper seam, I just want to make sure that my seam allowance below the zipper is caught open and flat for the hem. Okay, I want to show one last option. So this is also one of the samples that we did in Apparel 2, is to use the horsehair braid, and this will give your skirt hem some body, so it will sit out and be a little bit more dramatic. So I have the horsehair braid, and I'm pinning it. I'm going to actually overlap it at the back center back seam, but I'm pinning it to the right side of my fabric just to get me started. Just need to swap my foot here. So I'm gonna just do a section of my skirt here just to sample it. You may want to go in here and pin this. Just remember the horsehair braid stretches out a little bit, so it should stretch with the curve. And I'm gonna line up some stitching right on the edge, but be mindful that your fabric may fray because it's a woven. So I'm gonna take a couple stitches, back tack, and I'm attaching my horsehair braid so you can see how it's kind of pulling a little bit. I just want to make sure I can control it. And you do want to make sure you have enough horsehair braid because these hems tend to get really long, so you do want to take your measuring tape, measure the hem that you're going to stitch the horsehair braid to, just to make sure you have short. I'm just kind of guessing, and hopefully I have enough to get all the way around. Okay, so when I get to the seam where I started, the center back seam, I'm just gonna overlap my tape. So maybe by about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and I'm gonna back tack. And I can go ahead and trim that, clip my threads. Okay, so the next step for this is I'm gonna go to the iron and press this. So I'm gonna press this way and then press this so I have a nice crisp edge here on the other side, and then I'm going to go around with my number 3 stitch and just catch on the top edge of the fold here. But you can already see, if I hold this up, how much more shape this is giving the hem. Okay, so it's going to have a lot more body to it. So I'll go ahead and press it and then come back and do the final stitch. Okay, so I'm going in to press this, and I'm just going to kind of hold it in place. I'm sorry, I didn't press it. I'm just going to kind of hold this in place and go ahead and do my stitch just for time's sake, and then press it afterwards. So I have my number 3 stitch, and I'm stitching the top edge of the tape just to make sure I catch it. Kind of pulling it because I want my horsehair braid to be right here at the edge so that can be nice and crisp. And you can see what that looks like stitched, and on the right side, okay, it just looks like a top stitch. And I'm going to stitch all the way back around to my center back, and you don't want to lose your nice crisp curve there, so just make sure you do iron it and get it as flat as possible. So I'm coming up on the point at which I started, and again I'm just going to back tack here. Go in and clip all my thread tails, and the last step is I'm going to go and just press the hem. Okay, so this is the hem. This is with the horsehair braid applied. So you can just see the difference. So from when I let it hang to now, skirt has a little bit more body. It sits out. These are sometimes the skirt shapes where you see a crinoline underneath, or used in evening wear and bridal. And so I just press this, and this is the finished hem. So again, it's up to you, but I don't need this for grading purposes. You can put a trouser hook and eye, one or two at the back, that should be hidden, or you can do a button and buttonhole. Make sure your buttonhole is on the flat outer extension and the button is sewn here, but it's completely up to you. Just make sure if the skirt fits tight, you want to do a vertical buttonhole so it won't slide. If you want a little bit more room in there, then you can do a horizontal buttonhole in there.